we're going to talk about overcoming negative thoughts. And so these are going to be some strategies on overcoming negative thought patterns. And so what I would like to do is I would like to bring some of these things to you guys and give it an opportunity for you guys to take it, to apply it. Because at the end of the day, whether you realize it or not, about 90% of our self-talk is negative. And so when we find out and we get to a position where we understand that we have a lot of negative thought patterns that constantly going on over and over and over and over, I'm going to share with you some ways in which you can overcome some negative thought patterns. Remember, this message tonight is for all audiences. So again, age group appropriate. If you have kids, you have teenagers, man, bring them in front of the TV or in front of the device, allow them to check in, and or you guys see the green screen. So after this, I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to kind of doctor it up a little bit so that way, again, we can kind of share it and we can put it out from that way. And you'll be able to have a nice little background from there. Other than that, you can't change the face, can't change all this, but we can definitely change that background. But nevertheless, man, so I want to start with this. How many of you guys feel like in some capacity that you have struggled with negative thought patterns? If that's you, send a thumbs up, a like button, or something. If you're somebody that has found yourself struggling with negative thought pattern, meaning that things happen to you. And when things happen to you or things don't go your way, you find yourself thinking more in terms on, how can I get over this? Or you find yourself revisiting and thinking about it over and over and over. And for sometimes it feels like you're just stuck. It just feels like you're trying, but how can I get over it? It's like the more you try, the more those thoughts just stay there. And it's almost, you can feel like, man, why even try, right? Or you get to a point where you're like, I tried long enough and what else? It's just hopeless. Well, if that's you, then you've come to the right place because I'm going to share, again, some strategies on it. I have 13 strategies and ways that we're going to overcome negative thought patterns. And so I'm going to try to get through that tonight on this forum for you because at the end of the day, I want you to be able to use this and pass this forward to somebody else. Thank you, that dude Ben said, I always find myself thinking negative about myself and I can never get over it. So tonight, I'm going to share some different things. And as I do, and as I go, I want you to go ahead and chime in. Okay, this is interactive. Chime in. If I get a chance to see what you're writing, I'll get a chance to throw it out there. And remember, any questions, any comments, throw them out there as well because this is interactive. As I'm sharing, you're going to be able to go from there. And so again, as we go, again, just know this. Number one, having negative thoughts and battling with negative thoughts is normal. Just like emotions are normal. They're normal to have. Good, bad, indifferent, happy, sad, you name it. The whole gamut of it is normal to have. And so is thoughts, positive thoughts and negative thoughts. Because at the end of the day, these thoughts, even the negative thoughts, they have a purpose. But if you don't understand what the purpose is for them, then as we talked about before, you can feel that life is happening to you versus life happening for you. You think about it, sometimes when negative thoughts come because it gives you a higher level of dissatisfaction. And so when a negative thought comes, a lot of times you don't like it, and it's basically letting you know that you're not satisfied with what you're getting. Well, think about this. The bicycle was made. Why? Because somebody was dissatisfied with walking. A car was created and manufactured. Why? Because somebody got dissatisfied with riding a bike. The airplane was made. Why? Because people got dissatisfied with either walking, riding a bike, driving a car, or even a train, and they wanted to get there faster. And so at the end of the day, understand that the dissatisfaction that these negative thoughts can bring is actually a positive thing if you know what to do with them and if you know how to manage it. Angel said, how do you know the difference between when it's time to stop and change course versus press harder? Well, at the end of the day, if you find that you're battling these thoughts and you're finding that they are holding you back from moving forward, then it's definitely time to change course. And I'm going to share some different things in tonight that's going to help you understand, a little more just to that same exact question on what do we do? And what do we do? Is just, and I'll kind of go in there from there. And so I'm going to talk number one. Here's number one way that if you want to overcome this negative thought. Number one recommendation is have daily negative thought time. And I wrote some things down so that way it can be more active, okay? Have daily negative thought time. That means this. So a strategy to overcome this negative thinking is to commit about 10 minutes. Commit. If you're having a problem with negative thoughts all the time, you can't just stop. Commit about 10 minutes a day to where you're reviewing these thoughts over and over. So give yourself a time to where you're going to address these thoughts. So that way you're not beating yourself up. But give yourself about 10 minutes. It's called negative thought time, where you do it every day to go over it. When you do that, write it down. Jot it down. What are these negative thoughts that I'm having? Okay? And once you write them down, when they come to you, write that thought down. So now when you spend that 10 minutes of time, you're now able to give yourself time to review these thoughts. What that will do is that will empower you to, number one, so that the thoughts come and you're not just stopped and put to a halt right then when it happens. You're not beat up by the fact that you're having these thoughts. You're not distracted, but what you're doing, you're dealing with it. I'm having this thought, I write it down, or I put it in my notes in my phone or whatever. And then you give yourself time. Okay, what time of the day am I going to now visit this? And then what you do is you visit it during that negative thought time. So you're giving yourself permission to manage and handle these thoughts until you become strong enough until it comes, you come to a point where you've managed this thing so much that you can deal with them exactly when they come. All right, so one strategy is have a daily negative thought time. And that is, again, 10 minutes where you will actually deal and address what these negative thoughts are. Write them down or note them, and then you deal with them. What happens when you do that? The benefit of that, again, is you're giving yourself permission to deal with it. You're not pushing it to the side, but you're giving yourself an opportunity to deal with it later. And what you a lot of times find is that when you spend some time away from it and you give yourself time, by the time you get to it, you would have already been able to rationalize. You had already been able to come to a calmer place, and you've been able to deal with it a little bit from there. India said that's good to tire yourself. After a while, you hopefully get tired of it and make a new, fresh thoughts only. Exactly. So again, if you deal with it at another time, you'll come back and you can do it later. Sharon Robinson said, how do you tell people you care about that they are too negative? Well, at the end of the day, what you can do is we can choose who we are around. Okay, just like you're choosing to come on this forum or watch this video, you get a chance to choose who you're around. And at the end of the day, you can slowly start spending time around those individuals that are positive, those individuals that's pouring into you, those individuals that's helping you along. Remember we said before, think about yourself as a tree. If 95% of people in this world want the fruit of your tree, and only 5% of the people in this world are here for the root of the tree, individuals that can speak into you, individuals that can build you up, individuals that can fertilize your thoughts, your ideas, all that. You ever have a situation, man, where you have some good news happen to you, you're so excited, and you come home and you tell your spouse or you tell somebody, and then it's just like womp, womp, womp. They just suck all the air out of it. Well, you got to know who that 5% is. You got to know who you can go to. And I would just say, Ms. Sharon, and anybody else that's dealing with that with family members or other people, you just start spending more time, less time around them. Because remember, your environment is so important. So that's number one. Second thought, the second strategy on how do we kind of overcome these negative thought patterns is replace the negative thoughts. You know, we don't necessarily overcome these negative thoughts, but what we can do is we can replace them. It's like this. You can't stop a bird from flying over your head, but what you can do is you can stop the bird from putting a nest in your head. And so when we think about replacing these thoughts, okay, a lot of these thoughts are happening because they've been going on for so long. So they almost seem like they got a mind of their own, right? You see something, you hear something, even a smell can bring up a negative thought. And so what it is instead of trying to just overcome it and just destroy it, just replace it. So what you're doing now is you've identified that this is a stimuli for these negative thoughts. and these negative thoughts come. So instead of just trying to say, I'm not going to have that thought, replace it. Replace it with something different. Now, I'll give you an example, okay? And a lot of what we talk about, there's spiritual components to it as well. So for example, like in the Bible and in the power of confession or anything, people learn that when you speak certain things that are true, it has power, which is very true. But what happens is, what most people don't understand, it's more than just speaking that brings things to pass. It is an emotional connection with what you say that also brings things to pass. So along with what you say, and along with what you believe, and along with what you feel, has everything to do with how your emotions are changed and the things that impact your life. And so is the same thing when you're dealing with replacing these negative thoughts. If you replace it with just something very non-emotional, if you replace it with just something that you just say and you're not convinced about it, then at the end of the day, your mind, your subconscious mind knows that you don't really believe what you're saying. And so what you have to do is you have to replace it with something that your mind can accept. And what I mean by that is, if I am injured, and if I'm hurt, if I am sad, instead of me just saying, you know what, I'm totally healed, and my mind is like, man, you lying, you're not healed. What are you talking about? How many of you guys have that? You say one thing, but it feels like your mind is going against what you're saying and what you're thinking. Well, here's the way you overcome that. What you do is you say up to what your mind can accept until you get to the point where you're able to just say, and here's what I mean. If I'm injured and I believe that the power is in my words, that my words and my tongue is like a rudder that directs and sells my life, then I got to be careful of what I say. And so instead of me saying, in one case, man, I'm healed and my ankle is totally messed up or something else is broke, instead of me just saying that and I'm battling within my mind like, man, you don't believe it, what I can say is I'm feeling better today than I was yesterday. Or you could say, man, I am learning today more than I did yesterday. Or I'm overcoming this. It's just like if you don't have money, right? If you don't have any money, instead of saying I'm broke, you can say, you know what? I'm overcoming a cash flow problem. And so at that moment, because your mind is able to accept it, it's kind of like this. Think about it as a gatekeeper. It's determining, do you really believe what you're saying or not? And so once you're able to say something up to your level of belief, remember, my level of faith, my level of belief may be one level. Yours may be another level, meaning your ability to trust and believe in what you say is true. Mine may be one, yours may be another. But you can only go up to the level of your belief system. And so once you start to believe more and more and more, and you get more understanding, it helps you believe more. Okay? So in this, when we talk about replacing the negative thoughts, here's what I want you to do. Number one, I want you to notice when you started that pattern. So I want you to go back. When did I start this pattern? Take inventory. When did I start having these negative thoughts? That's number one. Number two, I want you to acknowledge that it's a pattern that you want to change. Now listen, some people don't want to change it. Some people having a negative thought pattern is serving them because it just gives them sympathy. It gives them something to hold on to, or they're so scared because they've never really known what it's like to really step out there and not have that as part of their DNA, part of their identity. And so you want to acknowledge that it's a pattern you want to change. Number three, you want to articulate what you want to be different. So you actually have to articulate, what do I want to be different? I'm having this thought pattern, but what do I really want to be different? I tell people all the time, and I'll suggest to you, when you think about changing your life, when you think about living an impactful life, I want you to ask yourself this question. What do I really, really want? That means not just one really, two of them. What do I really, really want in my relationship? What do I really, really want in my finances? What do I really, really want in my health? What do I really, really want to be known for? My legacy, my character. What do I really, really want? And so when you ask yourself that, that will determine and help you understand exactly what you need to continue to do and what you need to not do. Nate says some people are so used to thinking negative, it's like natural reaction now. They don't even notice that they're thinking in a negative manner, and it's the norm for them. And you're exactly right. Because at the end of the day, we have something on the inside of us, inside our mindset, which is called paradigms. Paradigms are a multiple set of habits. Paradigms are a multiple set of habits that we have adopted, that we have held on to for a very long time. And here's the thing about paradigms, which is our mindset. Remember, a multitude of habits that we hold on to that directs our life. These paradigms we have adopted and inherited from our parents. We've been adopted and inherited some of these paradigms from our parents. That's why you look like your parents. Why? You have genetically adopted and inherited a makeup and a set of patterns that is very similar to your parents. So some mindsets that we have, we've adopted them because of our parents. And some mindsets we had, some paradigms we have, we've inherited it, but we've also experienced it. What do I mean by that? That means between the ages of 0 and 9 years old, we were in a position where our mind was wide open. And everything we saw, felt, experienced, heard, went inside of our subconscious mind and became a part of us. And it actually determined and set our mindset, our paradigm. And so what happened is, not only did we inherit certain mindsets and paradigms and patterns from our parents, but we also heard these things from the things we learned and experienced between 0 and 8. And then we also did some things, and we actually actively did something that shaped us. And so if I ask you, what are you doing now that you saw happening or heard happening in your life or around you when you was 8 years old, when you was 7 years old? What did a teacher say to you? What did a parent say? What did you see happen between your mom and your dad? How did you see them talk to each other? How did they handle money? What was their attitude on life? What was their attitude in dealing with adversity? What was their mindset around people, around race, around color? What was it? Because at the end of the day, you'll notice if you're really truthful with yourself, now wait a minute, I inherited some of this. I believe some of this. This got deep down inside of me because of who I was around and what I learned. And so at the end of the day, some people, they're acting on autopilot. And so as we get older, around 10, 9, 10, and so on and so forth, we start to develop our conscious mind. And that means that's the thinking mind. That's the mind that is able to reason and perceive and say, you know what, I don't believe that, or I don't want to do that. How many of you guys got kids? And around 9 years old, 10 years old, they start to rebel. What does that mean? They're starting now to think and reason whether or not they want to do what you're telling them to do or not. But before that, for the most part, they just did whatever you told them to do, because now their conscious mind is being developed. And so now you look at it, grown adults, teenagers, and grown adults like us. And we find ourselves living a mindset, a lifestyle, having actions and behaviors and thought patterns that we, number one, inherited from our parents, number two, experienced as a young child, or three, we actually believed and performed ourselves. And so at the end of the day, a lot of us are negative and have these negative thought patterns. You wonder, where did it come from? It came from those sources. But the good news is you can change it. The good news is you can overcome it. The good news is you can replace it. The good news is it does not have to stay, because you can rewrite that ship. You can rewrite that program. And through these courses, I'm going to share with you how to do it, okay? And then, so again, the last thing on that replacing your negative thoughts, choose a different behavior, one that serves your goals. So if you notice when the pattern started, when you acknowledge that the pattern you want to change, then you articulated what is it that you want to be different, then you have to choose a different behavior, one that serves you. And that just means at the end of the day, nobody can make you do anything but you. So when the thought comes, the feeling comes, whatever it comes, only you can be the captain of your ship. Only you can be, the driver of your vehicle. And so at the end of the day, you get a chance to do it. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 1 was having a daily negative thought time. Number 2, replace these negative thoughts. Okay, number 3, be your own best friend. Be your own best friend. And by that, a lot of times, man, we're mean to ourselves. They say 90% of our inner talk, self-talk is negative. And so here's 3 steps. 3 steps to being your own best friend. As we're talking about overcoming negative thought. Number 1, release it. Let it out to help you process it. Release it. That's why having communication with the right person in the right scenario, it allows you to release it. If you hold on to it, if you hold it in, that's where depression comes in. That's when that inner sickness comes, because you're holding it. You need to release it, but you need to release it in the right way, okay? Don't dwell on it. Release it. Don't dwell on it, okay? 3 minutes. Then give yourself a pity party, okay? Let yourself have a 3-minute pity party. You let it have it. Man, they're on my job, they're doing this. My husband did this, my wife did this, my kids did that. You let it out. You let it out, man. My weight, this, my community. You let it out. Give yourself a 3-minute pity party. Give yourself a chance. But after those 3 minutes, stop it. After those 3 minutes, the party's over. The pity party's over. But you gotta release it. And sometimes you can actually release it to certain people, and they know how to receive it, and they know how to give you positive feedback. But if you're releasing it to somebody and they're just adding on, and they're going to 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, then you're at the wrong person, okay? So remember, give yourself 3 minutes to release it. Next thing, track it. Identify, when do I have these negative thoughts? Are there certain things that happen? Is it certain shows that I watch? Am I looking at certain emails? Am I looking at certain text mail? Am I looking at certain pictures? Track it. Because awareness will enable your reframing process. So if you understand, is there a pattern to when I'm feeling like this? Is there a pattern? Am I around certain people and then I just start to feel this and I start to think like this? And so you ask yourself that. You got to track it. And then I want you to reframe it. Okay? Once you know why you're being mean, consider what your best friend would say to you. Okay? That means in your wisest perspective. I want you to reframe and redefine, your situation. That just means think about it, about what you're going through, but then take yourself outside of yourself and think, wait a minute, what would I say to me that helps me get through this? Be your own best friend. What would I say? What should I do to get over this? What should I do? Not just react, and I guarantee you, when you do that, when you become your own best friend, you'll see that the advice that you give yourself, when you allow yourself to be your best friend, the advice you give yourself is one that will allow you to move forward and put you in control versus allow situations to feel like they're out of control. So that's number 3. Number 4, strategies for overcoming negative thoughts. Write instead of just thinking. A lot of us just hold on to it and we just start thinking about it, and we just over and over and over, and it just runs a circle in our head over and over and over. So as we're talking about overcoming negative thought patterns, number 4, write instead of thinking. So I want you to write down why the negative thought is present. Write it down. All right. Writing versus thinking helps us purge the thought out. And a lot of times when we see the words out on the screen, it makes it easier for us to make sense of it. So remember, when it's in our mind can seem like it's playing tricks on us. And we never really come to the same resolve. But when we write it out, it gives us an opportunity to really look at it in a different way. We'll look at it like, man, you know what? Why was I even feeling like that? Or you know what? That's not even true. That's not even real. When you write it out, what are you doing? You're releasing it. You're releasing the toxins. Remember, at the end of the day, do I want negative energy in me? No, I don't. Do I want negative thoughts in me? No, I don't. What do I want? Actually, I want to release it so that I can move forward. And so when you write it out, it allows you to process it. Okay, that's number 4. Number 5, make a conscious effort to find things that you love. Okay, make a conscious effort to find things that you love. you like, and you appreciate it. And so instead of fighting the negative thoughts, constantly reach for better feelings. One way to do that is speak out loud. What are some things that you love? Man, I love this. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love my life. I love my purpose. I love the fact that I have a home. I love, I appreciate you. I appreciate my mom. I appreciate my children. Like, when you start to do that, making a conscious effort to find things that you love, you like, and you appreciate, what it does is internally, it rewrites that program. Remember, I can only focus on one thing at one time. I can only look in one direction at one time. I can't look forward and look back at the same time. I just can't do it. And so if I now make a decision to consciously focus and find things that I love, I like, or I appreciate, then at the end of the day, what it has an opportunity to do is on the inside, it has an opportunity to let some of those negative feelings go, to replace them. And it also does an incredible thing on the inside of you, which is also brings about some hormones. It also brings about, endorphins within you that help you come up with strategies on how to overcome whatever your situation is. Am I saying that negative situations won't happen? No. But what I am saying is that when you're in a place where you can manage it, because you're giving yourself the benefit of the doubt, or you're giving yourself an opportunity to think about it in a rational way, by either releasing it, writing it down, letting it out, giving yourself a pity party for 3 minutes and stopping, it's only then that you can possibly deal with it from there. All right? And so remember, you can talk to yourself about, what do I appreciate? What do I love? What do I like? Man, I appreciate the chances just to process this stuff. So if you're in your job and it seems like they're frustrating you and it seems like you're trying to get things done, but nobody's listening, everybody always got their own opinion, this, that, and that, man, you know what? You can turn that around. So you know what? I appreciate the fact that, I get to process this with a team. I appreciate the fact that, we have a problem. I appreciate the fact that I got a job. I appreciate the fact that, even though it doesn't look like this is happening, that I'm moving a step further, or we're coming to an understanding, or some people do agree with me, or some people do like me, whatever it may be. Find a way to find something to love, like, and recognize the appreciation for it. Number 6, ask yourself some tough questions. Reflect on your answers to some of these tough questions. Like, here's one question I want you to ask yourself. What do I get from having this negative thought pattern? What is this thing giving me? What do I get from having this? Is it serving you well? Is it causing people to be sympathetic to you? Is it allowing you not to have to challenge yourself? Is it a safeguard? Well, as long as I'm holding on to this thought pattern or this excuse, then I really don't have to grow. I don't really have to do anything different because this become my identity. Okay, number 2, I want you to ask yourself, okay, what reward is this giving me? What is my reward? I'm holding on to this, and what reward is it giving me? Is it serving me well? Number 3, what do I lose by engaging in negative thoughts? What do you lose? When you're think about it. Everybody is different. Am I losing time? Am I losing being able to appreciate life? Am I losing my health because I'm deciding to focus on these negative things? Remember, we're talking about strategies on overcoming negative thought patterns. And so ask yourself these tough questions. Here's another one. What are the costs? What is this costing me to hold on to these negative thoughts? Sure, everybody may not agree with you. Sure, you may put out a great idea and nobody accepts it. And then you go into a negative think tank. What is it doing for you? Is it helping you? Is it helping them understand you better? Is it helping you deal with the fact that your answer is not the one they adopted, or your decision or the way you want to do things is not the way is it helping you? Is it helping you sleep? Is it helping you appreciate life? Is it helping you be healthy? You got to ask yourself that. What is it doing? The next one. What benefits would I receive from engaging in positive thoughts? Remember, these are tough questions. What benefits will I get? Ask yourself. If I engage now, it's not instead of negative thoughts, but in positive. Understand this. Nothing positive can come out of a negative thought process. And nothing negative can come out of a positive thought process. And so when you ask yourself, what benefits am I receiving from engaging in positive thoughts? When you give yourself an opportunity to say, well, you know what, hey, I can actually benefit in this. That means I get a chance to, in a positive state, in a positive thought process, I get a chance to come up with some ideas. I get a chance to do some things that helps me versus help me. India said, yes, I like that some people are negative for sympathy and sensitivity. Exactly. That is their reward. But when you engage in positive thoughts, how is that benefiting you? And then number 5, and the last one says, what will I do now? Ask yourself. Knowing what you know, the answers to those questions, what are you willing to do now? Are you willing to stay in the same negative situation, in the same thought process? Or are you willing to look at the positive benefits and say that this is what I want to do? This is where I want to go. Because this is what I really, really want. That's number 6. Number 7, strategies on overcoming negative thought patterns. Establish a new habit. Okay? Rather than thinking of it in terms of overcoming negative thought patterns, think of it in terms of establishing new habits. All right? You do that by directing your attention to subjects where there's nothing to overcome. Subjects that already feel, that you already feel good about, and therefore think positive about. Okay, that could be your pet, your health, whatever it may be. And so instead of thinking, okay, I'm overcoming this, because remember this, whatever you resist, you actually give life to. How many times you walk around and say, man, I'm not going to be like my dad. I'm not going to be like my mom. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that. Anytime you focus on what you don't want, you'll find that the same thing that you're focused on what you don't want has a funny way to creep in and be the very thing that you do. Because at the end of the day, what we don't want is the things that actually come to pass because we're focusing on it. And so at the end of the day, when you're trying to overcome these negative thought patterns, remember 90% of our self-talk is negative. And when that self-talk is negative, we take it out on other people. When that thought process is negative about my father, my mom, my situation, how happy I am, how unhappy I am, whatever it may be, you tend to take it out on other people. We need to establish new habits. So instead of trying to overcome it and trying to overcome other people or change other people, instead establish new habits. Help yourself learn something new. All the things we shared about before now, you're establishing a new thought process and a new pattern. See, at the end of the day, remember, these things are like this. The things that you don't like are there. Not to happen to you, but to happen for you. So that way now you can decide how you change them. You don't like something in your marriage? That problem with that situation in your marriage is not so much always the other person. It's actually the way that you're responding to it. And if you're trying to change somebody else or change somebody on your job, if you're trying to change anybody else, then the actual problem is really you. Because instead of you trying to overcome what's happening, you just establish a new habit. Because I have the chance to overcome. I have the chance, you have the chance to respond in a different way. Is the way you're responding and helping you? Is it serving you well? Are people just happy when you come around or you come home because of the way you respond to if something happened bad or something didn't happen? Are they just excited the way you come home? Or they feel like, oh man, here we go again. All the air has been sucked out of the room because they arrived. So remember, establish a new habit. If there's things you don't like, okay, look at it as a new opportunity to overcome some things, okay? And overcome some things in you. In you. And if you wasn't here earlier, man, remember, we've inherited a lot of our thought processes and patterns. We've inherited a lot of the ways that we think. When we think about marriage, we inherited that from how we thought, how we saw our parents. When we think about money, a lot of times we inherited how people dealt with money when we were young. How we handle conflict, a lot of times we inherited that. We saw it happen and it got in us and it's still in us. And sometimes, unless you're conscious on establishing new habits, it's going to keep playing itself out. Kind of like an autoplay. It's just going to keep playing itself out. And you're going to keep getting results that you really don't want. Okay, number 8. And how we doing with time, guys? So there you go. Stop watching the morning news, okay? This is my little personal thing, man. Stop watching morning news. You're talking about ways of overcoming negative thought patterns. Okay, research has shown that just 3 minutes of negative news in the morning will negatively and significantly increase your chances of having a negative experience over the course of the day. Research said this, not just Double D. Research says this, all right? And so it also shown that having a positive mindset increases positivity and satisfaction while reducing the amount of stress that you can have during the day. And so if you wake up in the morning and you turn on the news, and in that news a lot of times is negative, you are consciously putting yourself, think about you sitting in a garage with carbon dioxide. Imagine you being in those fumes, that toxic environment. You are constantly doing it. You are constantly doing it. So at the end of the day, here's your opportunity. Okay, here's your opportunity to look at how are you approaching each day. Is my day getting started the right way? Or is it being started the negative, the opposite way? All right. And so again, you have that the same way. Okay, Sharon said, such powerful words we speak. Exactly. India said, what laugh out loud, but true. The news are horrible, but I watch it faithfully every morning. India, is it serving you well? Are you walking away like, oh my goodness, it's happening again, or he did this? Think about it. Think about it. If we're parents, do we want our children to just stand in the mirror and say, you're horrible, you can't do it, you're going to fail today, life is miserable, it's terrible, today is not the day, today it may just end? Is that what you want? Well, why? If that's not what you want, why would you do it to yourself? You got to ask yourself these hard questions, man. And you got to be honest with yourself, because nobody can make you move. Nobody can motivate you. I can only inspire you. I mean, I can put something in you. But once it gets in you, you enact it. You motivate and move yourself. All right, number 9. I'm going to get through as many as I can before our time. Use affirmation. Here's another strategy. You can use affirmations. When you wake up and you open your eyes, feel the gratitude of another day. If you're a writer, write down some daily affirmations. Write down some daily affirmations. I'll share with you. This is what I do. When I wake up in the morning, as soon as my eyes wake up, I start an internal dialogue with myself of meditations on who I am and either my gratitude. So as soon as my eyes wake up, man, I may say, I'm blessed, I'm healed, I'm delivered, it's a great day. I'm strengthened, I'm healed, everything. My attitude is people are going to do good things for me today. No matter where I go, man, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm whole. Matter of fact, this is actually, I'm going to share with you guys, this is my personal meditation that I meditate every day throughout the day. Number 1, I say, I'm happy and so grateful that I'm healthy, wealthy, I'm full of wisdom, and I'm influential. I say that. I also say this to myself. I'm happy and I'm so grateful that I'm a successful, powerful, motivational messenger of inspiration and hope to all people and all nations. I also say this to myself, and I say it all throughout the day. I say, I'm happy and I'm so healthy. I'm happy and I'm so grateful that money flows to me in increased quantity from multiple sources on a continuous basis. Like, think about this. So that's what I say to myself all day, throughout the day. And so can you imagine when people say, Donovan, why are you so upbeat? Donovan, why do you have so much energy? Why? Because by the time I wake up, I am consciously doing this. I'm constantly telling myself, man, I'm happy and so grateful that, that I'm healthy, wealthy, wise and influential. I'm happy and so grateful that I'm wealthy, healthy, influential and wise. I'm saying this over and over and over. And then I'm picturing, what does that look like? I'm doing this. I'm feeding myself. Does that mean that negative things don't happen? No. Does it mean that thoughts don't come? No. But what do I get a chance to do? I'm replacing it. I'm replacing it with what I am. Because when I got the knowledge and understanding of who I am and whose I am, the things I'm going through are just temporary. So I get a chance to speak those things that are not as if they were. I get a chance to talk about those things that I truly believe about myself. And I get a chance to attract those things into my life. Why? Because I made a conscious decision to use affirmations, to speak over my life. I'm making a conscious decision to pour into myself, to build myself up from the inside. Now I'm going to share something with you. There was a time in my life where I could felt like now, if you could believe this, there was a time in my life where I felt like I couldn't say anything positive. I was going through such a tough time. And I literally felt myself being trapped to negative thoughts. But through the power of meditating on what was true, and through my favorite life book that helped encourage me, build me up in the truth and the principles of my life, and the more I got a chance to understand and just be, and the more I got a chance to speak over my life and turn my ship around and start moving in a different direction by making decisions, then all of a sudden, the power of the words, the power of my belief system, the truth of the words that I was saying began to come to pass. And all of a sudden, it's renewed energy. And all of a sudden, my life started changing for what I wanted versus what I didn't want. And so is the same thing to you and for you. All right, number 10, develop your success routine. Another strategy. You can develop your success routine. Now, listen, I'm sharing 10 of these, or I've shared 10 of these already, or sharing 10. Remember, everybody is different. You may find out that you like number 2, you like number 4, or you want to do something. At the end of the day, I just want you to try something. I just want you to be victorious. I want you to know that life is in your control. Okay, listen. At the end of the day, we are the masters of our soul. We are the makers and shapers of our destiny, situation, and environments. We are. We're co-creators, man. We're God's greatest creation, man. He gave us the land. He gave us the handbook. He basically put it inside of us. The power's inside of us. Now, how many of you guys not using it? Or are you using the power you have to destroy your life, to speak negative over your life, to speak negative, to do the 4 crucial C's, the 4 crucial C's, to complain, to criticize, to compare, and to compete? Who's doing that? And how well is it serving you? And so I'm here to encourage you that, listen, you can change that ship around by applying a strategy that works best for you. Number 10, develop yourself a routine, a success routine. Okay? So that means at the end of the day, you develop yourself a routine. What's going to work for you? Out of all that I shared today, what works best for you? Or is it daily quotes? Is it daily motivation? Is it journaling? Is it prayer? Is it talking to certain people that encourage you? What is your success routine? If you find yourself in a slump, who are you going to go to? Who are you going to go to when you're finding yourself in a slump? What does that look like to you? Develop yourself a success routine and stay with it. This is not a legal, This is not a legalistic thing. This is what I'm saying is you have to set yourself up. I used to have a routine. When I played in the NFL for 10 years, I had to have a routine. I stuck with the routine. Before the game, before pregame, every game, I had a routine that I had over and over and over. And why did I do that? So I wasn't wishy-washy. I wasn't performing based off of how I felt. I was performing based off of the standard. But by having a routine, I gave myself more predictability on what it is I can achieve. If you want to achieve something in your life, you got to have a routine. You got to have a successful routine. You just got to have it. You say, well, I'm tired. Well, guess what? You know what I'm saying? I guess what? Are you tired? Apparently, you're not tired enough of going through what you're going through if you haven't developed a routine. But you need a routine, a success routine for you. Okay, a couple more. Number 11, channel those thoughts into something constructive. Okay, those thoughts are there. Channel them into something constructive. Remember, we talked about at the very beginning, it was through the dissatisfaction of time and energy and effort that somebody, the Wright brothers said, listen, man, this bicycle, the bicycle's working good. Matter of fact, they were bicycle repairmen, but I want to get there faster. So what did they do when it was taking them a long time to get somewhere? They used their dissatisfaction and they turned it on to something positive. And they used the dissatisfaction and they turned it and utilized it to create something. They became constructive. And so anytime you find yourself focusing on the negative, refocus your thoughts for 5 minutes on your exciting project. So if you're at your job and you find yourself getting negative, for 5 minutes, give yourself 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes, boom, start the clock. Just refocus onto something positive, okay? Refocus your thoughts on the exciting project, something positive about that project or something else. All right, and so again, just kind of refocus. Number 12, okay, we talked about a little earlier, focus on gratitude. Strategies for overcoming negative thought patterns. Focus on gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most underrated essentials to being happy in life. My life comes to a great level of peace when I'm able to say this prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the good, the bad, the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, the trials, tribulations, and triumphs. When I say that, what it's saying in me is I'm grateful that this is happening to help me. This life situation is helping me. And I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to go through. Are there moments where you're going to find yourself in a season of negativity or a season where you have to overcome things? Yes. But do you have the strength within you to overcome? Yes. But only if you apply. It's like the person that I heard that was in the desert with a gallon of water in their hands and they died of dehydration. That water does nothing for them. Nothing for them unless they drink it. So unless you put these things to work, unless you take this time to digest this, to listen to what we shared over this last hour, unless you put it into practice and find out what works for you, you'll be like that person in the desert with a gallon of water and die of dehydration because you refuse to use it. You refuse to put it to work. And so I just want to encourage you guys, man, you know, as we finish up, man, with these last 3 minutes, feel free, man, any comments that you have. What do you guys think about the forum tonight? Matter of fact, remember, I'm going to send a feedback form for anybody to take out, just a couple minutes tonight. Just kind of let me know what stood out to you tonight. Okay, let me know about this forum. Again, this forum is here to serve you. We're a community, and we have in us everything we need. Remember this, and I shared this last week when I was up at Syracuse, and it's about finding our life. It says we find our life when we lose our life in the service of other people. And that's the whole purpose of this forum. It's an opportunity for me to serve you, for us to walk together, for us to grow together. That's the whole purpose of it. And so my prayer, my desire is that you receive what you need. My desire is that you got out of this what you needed to get out of this. And that your tomorrow is better than today, but not as good as the day after. Because in life, you're only getting